To prove that living off your wife is actually a pretty sweet gig, you, a massive heavyweight in the music industry, ended up playing the role of a stay-at-home husband. But the good times never last. Your superstar wife's company suddenly got hit with a crisis like never before. Left with no choice, you had to pull out smash hit after smash hit from your past, just to help her ride out the storm. Right now, you were just chilling on a rocking chair out on the villa's balcony, casually flipping through a magazine, muttering to yourself about how damn lucky you got with this reincarnation. In your past life, you were just some nobody, a total D-list singer, running yourself ragged your entire life just to make ends meet. That is, until 3 years ago. You were scrolling through videos, accidentally sent 3 virtual flowers, and bam, you transmigrated into this young guy named Shi Hao. Honestly, right at the beginning, you did think about using those past life hits to make a massive comeback in this world. But hey, this body already came with a superstar wife, so why even bother working hard? And so, throughout your 3 years of marriage, you kept all your talents completely hidden. Your one and only job every day was to just sit at home and write books. Of course, you picked out this specific job very, very carefully. It really didn't matter if you actually wrote anything. As long as you got to stay home and completely slack off, it was perfect. After all, being a writer, well, it's a profession that requires you to, quote-unquote, gather inspiration, right? Meanwhile, down in the first floor study, Gu Yunxi was on a live stream, chatting it up with her fans. She originally just wanted to give them a heads up that her new song release might get pushed back a bit. But who could have guessed? The chat wasn't giving her a chance to speak at all. Yunxi, you were seriously so out of your mind. What kind of guy did you even marry back then? Yeah, exactly. You're our national goddess. That guy Shi Hao is completely useless. He's just a total freeloader. Looking a little upset, her mind slowly started to drift away. 3 years ago, when the two of you tied the knot out of nowhere, she didn't even try to hide it. So her fans all over the internet knew all about it. And back then, she was right at the absolute peak of her exploding popularity. When the news of her marriage suddenly broke, it sent the entire internet into absolute shock. Everyone was desperately trying to guess who the hell this Shi Hao guy really was, and how he managed to bag the national goddess. But when those curious netizens finally dug up every last detail of your background, everyone was completely dumbfounded. You were just some painfully average young guy. No car, no house, and absolutely zero savings in the bank. A total deadbeat with nothing to his name. Where did a guy like this even come from? How could he possibly be good enough for Gu Yunxi? The entire internet practically went to war over it. People were blowing up her phone, spamming her with messages and calls, begging her not to do something so incredibly reckless. But she acted like she couldn't hear a word of it. She just kept doing her own thing, happily trying on all sorts of wedding dresses. And then, on one bright and sunny morning, she walked right down the aisle with you. Overnight, the streets all across the country were suddenly filled with heartbroken guys clutching beer bottles, looking absolutely devastated. Yunxi, seriously, why did you ever marry Shi Hao in the first place? Faced with her fans' relentless badgering, Gu Yunxi hesitated for a second. Then, she gave a little pout, a cute pink blush spreading across her pretty cheeks. After what felt like forever, she finally murmured, looking a little embarrassed. Because, he's really handsome. The second those words left her mouth, the entire livestream was instantly flooded with question marks. Handsome? What kind of reason is that? I mean, yeah, sure, that guy Shi Hao is pretty decent looking, but can a pretty face pay the bills? Oh my god, my goddess. Don't tell me you're one of those completely blind, hopeless romantics. The blush on Gu Yunxi's cheeks seemed to deepen even more. It was true, she really was a total sucker for a pretty face. She's just totally obsessed with your looks. Like, she absolutely can't help herself. She honestly didn't know how to explain herself, but the live chat wasn't giving her a break either. Yunxi, just divorce him. You could do so much better. Shi Hao seriously doesn't deserve you. Exactly, just look at what he's actually done for the past 3 years. Hiding at home every single day, just waiting for you to provide for him. A guy like that is nothing but a total deadbeat. Seeing the entire screen flooded with bad-mouthing about you, Gu Yunxi couldn't help but pout her lips again. Honestly, she knew exactly what your situation was. In 3 years of marriage, you hadn't earned a single dime. Instead, she was the one giving you a 20 million allowance every single month. She had thought about it, too. If only you could try just a bit harder, and be a little more successful. Then, her marriage to you wouldn't face so much backlash. But she noticed that you didn't seem to care about what the outside world thought at all. Every day, you just stayed at home writing your books. She had even tried recommending a few high-paying jobs to you. But you turned them all down. And when it came to that, Gu Yunxi felt completely helpless. How about we just get back to talking about the new song? Seeing that Gu Yunxi just wouldn't listen to reason, the fans behind the screen couldn't help but let out a heavy sigh. She's our perfect national goddess. Why does she have to be such a sucker for a pretty face? Gu Yunxi's soft, gentle voice rang out again, I've been a bit busy lately. The new song that was originally scheduled to drop in 3 days might have to be pushed back by a week. I'm so sorry about that. But I promise I'll keep working hard. The new song definitely won't let you guys down. The fans in the live chat immediately started flooding the comments. It's totally fine. We understand. We can wait a little longer, Yunxi. Don't work yourself to exhaustion. The new song is going to be a huge hit. It's all Shi Hao's fault. A grown man who refuses to work. Just mooching off his wife. He's the reason our Yunxi is so tired. Gu Yunxi looked at the chat, and her sweet little face instantly fell. Why are they suddenly bringing up Shi Hao again out of nowhere? So, after chatting with her fans for a few more minutes, she was just about to wrap up today's stream. But right then, a fan suddenly brought something up. Yunxi, let us see your wedding photos. The other fans in the live chat immediately chimed in. Yeah, please show us. I've only managed to save like 5 or 6 blurry photos from the internet. We want to see more, pretty please. Even though Gu Yunxi marrying you was something every single one of her fans strictly opposed. Seeing her in a wedding dress was still something they were all dying to see. Seeing her fans begging non-stop, Gu Yunxi blinked her eyes and gave a soft smile. Sure thing, but I put the albums away in the cabinet. Let me go find them. As she spoke, she picked up the camera and walked over to a drawer next to the bookcase. She pulled it open. Sure enough, sitting right there inside the drawer were several beautifully crafted wedding albums. She picked one up, but as she did, a piece of paper suddenly fluttered out from between the pages. What's this? Gu Yunxi froze for a second. She picked up the slip of paper, only to find it completely covered in dense handwriting. The title at the top read, What I Miss, and it was unmistakably in Shi Hao's handwriting. Gu Yunxi stared at the paper in her hand, completely puzzled. The fans in the live stream had also caught a glimpse of it. The sentences are so short, it kinda looks like a poem. Did Shi Hao write this? Don't tell me, that guy Shi Hao took 3 years just to write a single poem? A fan suddenly commented, wait a minute, why does this look like song lyrics? There's a melody written right next to it too. Gu Yunxi naturally noticed this comment as well. So, she stared at the melody, then glanced at the words beside it. She was finally sure that this was indeed a song, and a really good one at that. But she didn't think she had ever heard it before. The fans in the live stream were also a bit confused. I can't find this song online at all. Whose song is it? Could Shi Hao have just scribbled it? Did he butcher someone else's lyrics? Seeing this, Gu Yunxi grew even more puzzled. It couldn't be found online? Did Shi Hao really just tweak someone else's lyrics? Her beautiful eyes shifted thoughtfully. Then she cleared her throat and softly began to sing a cappella, following the melody. A melody tinged with a faint sense of melancholy flowed out alongside the lyrics. As if it were telling a story, carrying an unspeakable sorrow. After just a few lines, Gu Yunxi was involuntarily mesmerized. This melody is unexpectedly good. It sounds amazing. What song is this? Why is it so catchy? Is it Yunxi's new song? Fans in the live stream chimed in one after another. Gu Yunxi stared at the piece of paper in her hands in disbelief. She took a slow, deep breath and continued to sing. The melody gradually lifted, but for some reason, it still carried a faint trace of sadness, as if quietly pondering over something. Or reminiscing about something. The light in Gu Yunxi's eyes grew brighter and brighter. The number of comments in the live stream gradually dropped. The fans were all listening intently to Gu Yunxi's singing. It left many fans wanting more. By the time the song finally came to an end, the fans were still completely captivated. I'm sure of it now. This is absolutely an unreleased song. And it's an incredibly high quality one at that. So you're saying, this is an original song? And Shi Hao wrote it? Could he really have that kind of talent? Gu Yunxi gently held the piece of paper, her beautiful eyes gradually flickering with disbelief. Did he really write this? But if he actually wrote it, why has he never mentioned it? When we got married, didn't this guy solemnly swear that we would be completely honest with each other? Thinking of this, she gently bit her lower lip, then grabbed the paper, picked up her phone, and headed straight for the rooftop balcony. Seeing this, the fans in the livestream got super excited. Hee hee, we're in for a good show. Meanwhile, you were still up on the rooftop balcony, soaking up the sun, with a magazine resting over your face to block the glaring rays. Suddenly, someone snatched the magazine away, and the blinding sunlight hit your face directly, making you instinctively frown. You squinted your eyes open, about to say something, but suddenly saw Gu Yunxi's beautiful face appearing right in front of you, her gorgeous eyes glaring intensely at you. Her expression was a bit serious, yet somehow cute. Honey, what's wrong? Her heart skipped a beat, and you sat up in confusion. Having been married for 3 years, you knew exactly what it meant when a woman made this expression. Things are rarely that simple. Take a look at this. What is it? Gu Yunxi pouted a little, then handed over a piece of paper. You took it from her, took one look, and completely froze. Wait, aren't these the lyrics you just scribbled down when you were bored at home? How the hell did this end up in Gu Yunxi's hands? Oh, crap. Does she already know about your songwriting? You were practically kicking yourself. Why didn't you just throw the damn thing away? Ahem. Oh, this? Where exactly did you find it? You tried your best to play it cool, but Gu Yunxi was staring right at you. Unable to catch any slip-ups in your expression, she finally asked. It was tucked inside our wedding album. Honey, did you really write this? Yeah, just scribbled it down when I was bored. Why, your brain was working in overdrive. You were caught red-handed anyway, so you figured you might as well just admit it. Hearing your confession, Gu Yunxi's jaw dropped slightly, her eyes wide with absolute disbelief. Aren't you a writer? Since when do you know how to write songs? She asked in pure shock. You let out a heavy internal sigh, looking like you just choked on expired ramen. Just as you feared, Gu Yunxi went ahead and asked the dreaded question. I studied it a little bit in the past. Hearing you actually admit it, the viewers in the livestream completely lost their minds. What? Am I hearing things? Did Shi Hao really write this song? He just admitted it himself. It has to be true. But how does someone write a song like this just from studying it a little bit? Is he bluffing? But Gu Yunxi couldn't see any of the live chat. She was too busy staring at you in utter shock. This song, What I Miss, was actually written by her own husband? You had no choice but to double down on being humble. Ahem. Look, honey, even though I dabbled a bit in composing back then, I really didn't learn much. I'm literally just an amateur. I can't even compare to the pros. It's just some embarrassing amateur stuff, really. Gu Yunxi's mouth opened even wider, just staring at you blankly. Didn't learn much? Just an amateur? An amateur can write a melody like, What I Miss. An amateur can write lyrics like, The evening breeze stirs the white hair at your temples, soothing the scars that memories left behind. Are you kidding me right now? What is that supposed to mean? Are you saying that as professionals know absolutely nothing about music? That we can't write songs? For some reason, a faint blush suddenly crept up Gu Yunxi's cheeks. Back in college, she had systematically studied composition and music theory. Even after her debut, she had never stopped working on her craft. In her latest album, there were 2 tracks that she had written entirely by herself. So, strictly speaking, she was exactly the kind of pro you were talking about. Except, she was a pro whose skills apparently couldn't even match an amateur. At that thought, she shot you a genuinely irritated glare, gritted her teeth, and demanded, Then why the hell didn't you tell me you knew how to write songs? The sweat on your forehead just keeps building up. You haven't quite figured out the answer to this question yet. At a loss for words, you can only manage a dry response. Ahem, honey, didn't I just tell you? I only learned a little bit just for fun back then. I'm a total amateur, seriously terrible at it. It wasn't even worth mentioning, so I never brought it up with you. This answer again. Gu Yunxi stares at your incredibly humble expression, gritting her teeth in annoyance. She doesn't think you're acting weird, but instead feels like you're doing this just to show off and mock her. She kicks out her little foot, stomping hard on you, before plopping down onto a nearby chair. Pouting her cute face, she looks away. You rub the top of your foot, glaring at Gu Yunxi. This little lady sure knows how to stomp. You originally want to stand up and assert your dominance, to let her know exactly who is the head of the house. But seeing how genuinely upset Gu Yunxi seems, you can't help but second-guess yourself. Did she figure out that you were purposely slacking off and freeloading this whole time? If this ruins your sweet slacker lifestyle, what are you going to do? Ahem, Yunxi, look, here's the thing. You open your mouth to make an excuse, but despite your brain running a mile a minute, you still can't come up with a decent story. Gu Yunxi watches you stammer, and finally senses that something is off. A woman's intuition is absolutely terrifying. So Gu Yunxi puts it all together almost instantly. Her beautiful eyes widen in shock, spinning around to glare at you in disbelief. Shi Hao, have you been lying to me for the past 3 years? Oh crap, you're busted. You panic completely inside. Honey, this isn't what you think it is. Gu Yunxi's beautiful eyes flash with a sharp, calculating gleam. And she quickly pieces the whole story together. She stands up furiously. You've known how to write songs this whole time, haven't you? But you kept it a secret. There's a reason for this. Honey, please just let me explain. Fine, go ahead. Let's hear your explanation. Gu Yunxi puts her hands on her hips, glaring at you with intense annoyance. For any woman, suddenly finding out her husband lied to her for 3 solid years would completely ruin her mood. You steal a cautious glance at Gu Yunxi and let out a miserable sigh inside. Whatever, since things have already come to this, you might as well just own up to it. There's no end to a woman's wrath once she's mad. Honey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden the fact that I know how to write songs. You confess, hanging your head in defeat. Seeing you finally cave, a hint of a smile flickers in Gu Yunxi's eyes, though she desperately maintains her strict, pouting expression. Well, since you admit you were wrong, how are you going to make up for it? What can you even do? To you, this is an absolute death trap of a question. You definitely don't want to lose your lazy, carefree lifestyle. So, you tentatively ask, I'll cook you dinner? Gu Yunxi just shakes her head with a deadpan look. Fine, I'll do 2 hours of chores, Shi Hao said. Gu Yunxi stomped her feet in frustration. You're way too lazy. Even when you're trying to coax me, you're only willing to do chores for 2 hours? Honey, you replied, confidently bringing out your own twisted logic. Let me ask you, how does our cleaning lady get paid? By the hour, right? And what about the chef? By the meal, right? See, exactly, you continued, if I do all the chores and do all the cooking, then who's going to pay the cleaning ladies? Who's going to feed their grandchildren? We can't ruin other people's family happiness just because we want to be selfish, right? Hearing this, Gu Yunxi was completely dumbfounded. She stared at you with a blank expression. Out of nowhere, how did this suddenly turn into ruining other people's family happiness? She was still completely dazed. Meanwhile, the live stream chat absolutely exploded. Wait a second, why'd I feel like Shi Hao actually has a point? Bullshit. How does that make any sense? I almost got fooled by him. Yunxi, he's totally tricking you. It took a good long while before Gu Yunxi finally snapped out of it. Oh, I see. She almost got talked into circles by him again. Furious and on high alert, she glared at you. Were you just trying to fool me? No, I wasn't. You waved your hands helplessly. So, you don't want me to do chores. And you don't want me to cook. Are you not mad anymore? You looked at her with eyes full of hope. Of course I'm still mad. Gu Yunxi raised her little fist threateningly. I want you to write a song. Write a song? You froze for a second. Gu Yunxi gave a cold scoff and nodded. This was the plan she had just cooked up. Shi Hao was just too cunning. If she made him do chores, he would definitely find a million excuses to brush it off. But writing songs had to be done independently. There was no way he could push that onto someone else. From now on, you have to write one. No, write 2 songs every single month. She demanded fiercely, but your expression turned a bit strange. 2 songs a month? Writing songs might be really difficult for other people. But for you, it was absolutely nothing. Still, you put on a pained expression and sighed. Fine, that's more like it. Gu Yunxi's anger finally subsided a bit. You looked at her, knowing that this whole ordeal was pretty much over. You waved your hand, letting out a long yawn. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna sleep a bit more, to look for some inspiration. Saying that, you turned back to your recliner, ready to return to your interrupted dreams. But seeing you like this, for some reason, the anger in Gu Yunxi's chest instantly flared right back up. She just felt like forgiving you this easily was letting you off the hook way too cheap. The more she thought about it, the madder she got. She put her hands firmly back on her hips. You write it right now. You lifted your head, staring blankly at her. Right now? Writing a song isn't like farting. It doesn't just come out on command. Doesn't it need time to brew? I want you to write it right now. And when you're done, you have to sing it for me. Gu Yunxi glared at you fiercely, her pretty little face wearing an utterly unreasonable expression. Looks like she needs some coaxing. You looked at the little lady's expression. Her mouth twitched a bit, but you knew you definitely had to play along with her right now. You turned to look at the coffee table nearby, where a pen and some paper were already sitting. They were left over from when you were bored and making paper airplanes yesterday. You let out a sigh and walked over. Picking up the pen and paper, you asked with a pained expression. Honey, what kind of song do you want me to write? Gu Yunxi rolled her pretty eyes, deliberately trying to make things difficult. You did something wrong, so write an apology song. Yeah, an apology. You froze for a second. I want to hear you sing a song apologizing to me. You looked completely helpless. Honey, writing a song isn't like picking out groceries at the market. I can't just whip up whatever you ask for on the spot. In such a short amount of time, how am I supposed to write an apology song out of nowhere? I don't care, I wanna hear it anyway. Watching your conflicted face, Gu Yunxi actually found it pretty funny deep down. But she still wasn't going to let you off the hook that easily. Acting high and mighty, she waved her little fist at you threateningly. No stalling, go write it right now. I'm going to the bedroom to get my guitar. You have to sing it for me live when you're done, or else it doesn't count. In the live stream chat, the fans were cheering wildly. Well said, Yunxi, that's exactly how you do it. Don't let him off too easy. I knew Shi Hao was no good from the start. I can't believe he's been lying to Yunxi for 3 whole years. This scumbag doesn't deserve forgiveness. Watching Gu Yunxi walk away, you finally let out a breath and relaxed. You slipped right back into your lazy posture, leaning against the sofa as you slowly started to think. What kind of song should I actually sing to make the little lady happy later? Suddenly, a song popped into your head, but you quickly pursed your lips and brushed the idea aside. Apologize my foot. A real man can make mistakes, but he never apologizes. By the time Gu Yunxi came back hugging her guitar, she saw that you had already laid the paper out on the table. You were writing something down incredibly seriously, your brows furrowing every now and then. It looked like you were racking your brain trying to think. Seeing this scene, Gu Yunxi couldn't help but break into a smile, playfully sticking her tongue out a bit. She was a singer herself, so she naturally understood that writing a song actually took a really long time to prepare. Making you write an apology song on the spot was just an impossible demand she made in a moment of anger, purely to punish you a little. But now, seeing how much you were struggling, the anger in her heart gradually faded away. She couldn't help but feel a little soft-hearted. But most importantly, she knew you weren't someone completely without a temper. If she pushed you too far, you'd end up blowing up too. If she kept being completely unreasonable, the one getting punished tonight might just end up being her instead. And then she'd be the one begging for mercy. Thinking about that, Gu Yunxi blushed and took a couple of steps closer, wanting to see exactly what you were writing. In the live stream chat, the fans seemed to notice Gu Yunxi going soft on you, too. They immediately started causing an uproar in the chat. Yunxi, hold your ground, don't you dare go soft on him. You've got to teach him a lesson. Gu Yunxi couldn't see the comments rolling in on the live stream. She walked up behind you, only to see that on the small sheet of white paper. A few lines were already scribbled down. She couldn't help but freeze for a second. How did Shi Hao get inspired so fast? She glanced down at your hand. You were writing incredibly fast. It didn't look like you were composing music at all, but rather like you were drawing chicken scratch. Your handwriting was just as wild and messy as ever. Every few words, your eyebrows would furrow slightly. Then, smack, you'd slap your left hand against your calf, muttering curses under your breath. Gu Yunxi stared blankly at the scene. A long moment later, she gritted her teeth in anger, her pretty face turning slightly pale with rage. And to think she actually believed you were taking this seriously. But looking at you right now, you were clearly just pulling things out of thin air. Gu Yunxi was genuinely pissed off this time, just as she was about to snap at you. Okay, all done, you announced, slapping your pen down on the desk. Looking rather smug, Gu Yunxi shot a glare at the paper. She noticed that only the very first line was somewhat legible. Blame it on the moon. The next 2 or 3 lines were such a scribbled mess that she couldn't read them at all. Her blood started to boil even more. You wrote barely a few lines and called it done? And worse, blame it on the moon? What kind of garbage title is that? She specifically told him to write an apology song. What on earth does the moon have to do with it? This jerk. Not only was he making things up on the fly, he completely missed the point. Oblivious to Gu Yunxi's raging internal monologue, you spun around with a big smile and looked at her. Honey, I'm all finished. Where's my guitar? You're done already? Gu Yunxi kept her face deadpan. With an icy glare, she said, that was awfully fast. To her, that goofy smile on your face proved you were completely messing with her. It hadn't even been 5 minutes. Still, you didn't notice how furious she was getting. Instead, you pulled a pack of cigarettes from the desk drawer and lit one up. You slowly blew out a puff of smoke. The truth is, you rarely ever smoked. But right at this moment, you just felt an uncontrollable urge to light up. No particular reason, you just wanted to look a little bit badass. Seeing this, Gu Yunxi ground her teeth in pure fury. As far as she was concerned, you were just provoking her. You were begging for a slap. The fans in the live stream were also absolutely fuming at your behavior. How dare he half-ass this? Oh, I am so mad. He hasn't learned his lesson at all. Look how furious he's making our Yunxi. Yunxi, don't let him get away with this. Pack his bags right now and kick his butt to the curb tonight. Do not let him off the hook. Gu Yunxi stayed completely silent. She was just waiting for you to crash and burn so she could absolutely wreck you. With a face like ice, she shoved the guitar into your hands. Are you really done? Of course. Great song is all about the soul, not the word count, you replied, acting cocky as hell. You listened as Gu Yunxi finished speaking. She stomped over to a chair and sat down in a huff, but you still didn't pick up on her mood. You just held the guitar in your arms and gently strummed the strings. The tone was great, and the tuning was perfect. You gave a faint smile. Gu Yunxi shot a sharp glare in your direction. Still fuming inside, she made up her mind. No matter what you sang next, she absolutely wouldn't let you off the hook. She had to make you realize your mistake. But, when she looked at you again, she couldn't help but freeze for a second. For some reason, in just a split second, the vibe you were giving off had completely changed. Holding that guitar, the playful smirk vanished from your face. A deep, focused look washed over your eyes. You stared at the guitar in your hands, as if you were greeting an old friend. Gu Yunxi was stunned. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt an unexplainable pull coming from you. It was a vibe she had only ever seen in one of those legendary, veteran pop idols. In the live stream, the flood of comments gradually slowed down. Fans were staring at you sitting there, totally captivated and surprised. A soft melody filled the room. You didn't say a word, but just started strumming the strings. Your face was perfectly calm. Your movements were so skilled, carrying a smooth, natural rhythm. Your gaze turned inward, and that intense, playful energy around you just melted away. But to Gu Yunxi, that mysterious, captivating pull felt even stronger now. She unconsciously held her breath, because you had never played the guitar in front of her before. But your performance right now truly caught her off guard. Her fingers twitched slightly. Anticipation began to bubble up inside her. So, what song was Shi Hao going to sing? Would it be as mind-blowing as I Miss You? Finally. Your slightly raspy voice broke the silence. The second you started singing, Gu Yunxi felt like the whole world was spinning upside down. It was as if the sun above her had just completely blacked out, turning into countless question marks swarming all around her. Her eyes widened in shock. She stared at you in absolute disbelief. What do you mean, it's all your fault? She remembered it perfectly. She had told Shi Hao to write an apology song, right? So how the hell did it become her fault? But, you seemed totally lost in the music right now, your expression dead serious. And the singing kept going. A barrage of, it's all your faults dropped on her like a ton of bricks falling from the sky, smashing Gu Yunxi right in the face and leaving her seeing stars. She clenched her fingers tight, her cute little face contorting with absolute rage. In the live chat, Gu Yunxi's fans were fuming, practically blowing smoke out of their ears. What the hell do these lyrics even mean? Shi Hao. Damn it, he's such a jerk. With a trash song like this, he actually expects to be forgiven? Bros, hold me back, I'm gonna take this guy down with me. And meanwhile, your raspy singing just kept right on going. Gu Yunxi, however, slowly froze. The lyrics were short, but the meaning hidden within them suddenly completely changed the whole vibe in an instant. In that moment, she suddenly realized, this wasn't an apology song. And it wasn't a song blaming her for doing something wrong, either. It was actually a love song. She stared blankly at you, her eyes filled with absolute disbelief. Right then, you seemed to feel her gaze, and you lifted your head to look right back at her. There was no apology in the singing, yet it was so much gentler than any words of regret. Sweeter than any sweet nothings. This was a love song Shi Hao had written, just for her. Her mind seemed to drift back, right in that moment, to 3 years ago, to the very first time she laid eyes on you. That night, under the moonlight, you were carrying a little girl who had lost her way. You walked such a long, long way, and all along the journey, your voice was so gentle, constantly telling the girl jokes and fairy tales. Just comforting her, for over an hour of walking. You didn't complain even once, and you barely even stopped to rest. 2 hours later, you safely brought the little girl back to her home. But you didn't leave a single word behind. You just gave her a simple wave goodbye, and turned away. You thought no one in the world knew what you did that night. But what you didn't know was, hidden on that little girl, was a hidden camera and microphone from a production crew. And Gu Yunxi was sitting in a cafe not far away, watching your every single move. That night, she heard every single word you said to that little girl. Every weird and wonderful fairy tale you told. She memorized them all by heart. And then, not long after that, she just went and married you in a heartbeat. Thinking back to all this, Gu Yunxi's face suddenly lit up, blooming into an absolutely breathtaking smile. The way she looked at you was overflowing with so much tenderness. You didn't say a word, and neither did she. She just quietly looked right at you, her eyes turning a little red. Honey, forgive me, okay? You said with a soft smile, gently putting down the guitar. She threw herself straight into your arms, her voice choked with soft sobs. The fans in the live stream were completely dumbfounded. They just stared blankly at the couple hugging on camera. Wait, what the hell is actually going on here? Shi Hao didn't even write an apology song, and he didn't apologize. He even had the nerve to say everything was Yunxi's fault. How on earth did she just instantly forgive him? Hubby, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have been mad at you, Gu Yunxi murmured, snuggled deeply in your embrace. Her voice incredibly soft and low. You stroked her hair and said gently, it's okay, I've already forgiven you. Instantly, the entire livestream screen felt like it was radiating the sweet, sickening smell of pure romance. Everyone was watching the scene unfold with total jealousy, completely lost for words. You held her for a while, feeling her softness against you, and somehow, your hands couldn't help but slowly start wandering a little too freely. You cleared your throat. Ahem, honey, I suddenly feel like the sun's a bit too bright out here. Why don't we head to the bedroom and keep talking? Gu Yunxi popped her head out from your embrace and glanced up at the sky. Noticing that the sun had completely hidden behind the clouds, her cheeks instantly flushed an even deeper shade of red. She gave you a gentle shove. You're so naughty. The live stream hadn't been turned off yet. In the chat room, the fans were already choking on all the PDA, furiously smashing their keyboards to complain. You bastard, watch where you put those hands. Let go of my goddess right now. I challenge you to a duel. Name the time and place. You noticed the camera off to the side and shook your head with a bit of regret. I think you had finally managed to move the little lady to tears today, right when you could have taken things a step further. Only to be interrupted by all these third wheels. Seriously, these guys, if you have nothing to do, go find a job. Why are you lurking in a live stream all day? Are you trying to light up the whole earth? Hubby, I'm heading down first. Perhaps out of shyness, or perhaps afraid you wouldn't be able to control yourself. Gu Yunxi slipped out of your arms in a slight panic. She remembered she was still live streaming, and had completely forgotten to show the wedding photos to her fans. Alright, you let out a soft sigh, not wanting to force her. But then Gu Yunxi changed the subject, suddenly remembering something. Hubby, did you really write this song in under 5 minutes? Of course not. You shook your head. I had the inspiration for this song a long time ago. I just wrote out the full version just now. No wonder, Gu Yunxi realized. No wonder Shi Hao could sing such a complete song after only writing a few lines. But that's still super impressive. I didn't know you were so good at writing songs. Are you hiding anything else from me? She followed up, looking at you with a strange gleam in her eye. Of course not. Panic flared in your chest. You quickly coughed to cover it up. Over the years, I've only ever written a total of 2 songs, and you've already found both of them. Although you sounded perfectly sincere, Gu Yunxi didn't seem quite convinced. She waved her little pink fist at you in a playful threat. If you lie to me again, just you wait. Watching the little lady's retreating figure, you sighed softly in your heart, then settled back into your chair. You reached out, picked the magazine back up, draped it over your face, and gently closed your eyes. In the study room, Gu Yunxi took the wedding photos out from the cabinet. She picked out 2 albums at random, and after letting the fans feast their eyes for a bit, she couldn't wait to say goodbye to them and turn off the stream. She stood up and walked over to the cabinet. She dug out a beautiful notebook, and just as she was about to put the 2 sheets of lyrics you had just written inside, her phone suddenly rang. The screen lit up, and a name appeared. It was a call from her manager, Lin Qing. Sister Lin, Yunxi, I'm almost at your door. Down on the leafy green path of the neighborhood, a tall woman held her phone, looking at the elegantly scattered luxury villas on both sides. She let out a soft sigh and continued, I'm sorry. I couldn't get Song Z to stay. He seems dead set on quitting. And he just had to pick this exact moment to do it, right when your new song is about to be released. What are we gonna do? He's our company's music director. If he leaves, so many projects are going to get delayed. I've been dealing with this all day. Let's just talk when I see you. Hanging up the phone, Lin Xingzu let out a deep breath. She kept walking forward at a brisk pace. In just a few moments, she arrived at the front gate of a villa. Lin Xingzu reached out a slender finger and pressed the doorbell. As the crisp chime rang out, she tucked her phone away into her bag. She glanced around idly, but when her eyes landed on a nearby shrub, she couldn't help but freeze for a second. What is that? Stuck right into the head of a bush trimmed like a little bear, was a paper airplane. It had scored a direct hit right on the bear's forehead. It looked bizarre, yet kind of hilarious. Curious, Lin Xingzu took a couple of steps forward and plucked the paper airplane out. She was about to just toss it in the trash, but after a quick glance, she noticed something. Faint handwriting was showing through the folds of the paper. Intrigued, she carefully unfolded the airplane. Sure enough, the small, creased piece of paper was covered in writing. It was filled with neat little lines of text. The title at the top had 5 words. Keep walking in the rain. The sentences are so short. Is this a poem someone wrote? Lin Xingzu looked closely at the contents of the page. The poem itself actually seemed pretty good, but the handwriting was absolutely terrible. Who in the world wrote this? She wondered to herself. She didn't overthink it, though, and just slipped the paper into her bag. Whatever, I found it right outside Yunxi's door anyway. I'll just ask her about it later. Click. Gu Yunxi pulled the front door open. Hey, Lin. She greeted her with a warm smile. Lin Xingzu didn't stand on ceremony. She changed into her slippers and walked right in, complaining as she went. It hit absolute peak rush hour. The traffic was a total nightmare. Otherwise I would have been here ages ago. Here, have some water first. Gu Yunxi handed her a glass of water, and the two of them made some small talk. As they made their way over to the sofa. So, Lin, what was all that about on the phone just now? Gu Yunxi waited for Lin Xingzu to take a few sips of water before asking. The moment work was brought up, Yunxi's casual, girl next door vibe completely vanished. To make it so big in just a few short years, becoming the new queen of pop relied on a lot more than just a pretty face. She worked just as insanely hard as anybody else behind the scenes. Half a year ago, her personal studio started transitioning into a full-fledged entertainment company. Aside from her assistant and her manager, they had also signed quite a few trainees. So, she was pretty used to stepping into the role of the boss in front of others. Over time, that commanding, female CEO aura naturally grew stronger and stronger. Yunxi, here's the situation. Lin Xingzu let out another heavy sigh. 2 days ago, Song Z, the music director for our Yunxi Entertainment, he suddenly handed in his resignation, right? Gu Yunxi nodded. She already knew about this. Lately, besides trying to talk him out of leaving, I've been reaching out to potential new music directors. We were actually making some progress. Several veterans in the music industry seemed really open to working with us when we first talked, and clearly showed interest in collaborating. But when I reached out to them again today, I don't know what happened, but they all suddenly changed their tune. One by one, they told me they wouldn't be working with Yunxi Entertainment. And when I asked why, they were super vague about it. Even Song Z has completely stopped replying to my messages. Hearing this, Gu Yunxi furrowed her brows. Her new song was originally scheduled to drop in 3 days. But lately, for some unknown reason, Song Z had been making up all sorts of excuses to drag out the production of the new song. And right before the release date, he suddenly quit. Because of him, the new song is still completely on hold. During her live stream just now, she had already told her fans that the release would be pushed back by a week. But honestly, even with an extra week, the schedule is still incredibly tight. And now, hearing about this situation, trying to find a new music producer is just going to be too late. So, her new song will most likely have to be delayed all over again. Breaking her promises to her fans time and time again like this, it was definitely going to take a toll on her popularity. Yunxi, I seriously think someone is pulling strings behind the scenes. Lin Xingzu said after a moment of hesitation. Gu Yunxi nodded. To be honest, she had also noticed something was off lately. Over the past 2 weeks, several gigs the company had lined up for the rookies were suddenly snatched away. The reasons were always super vague. And the weirdest part? Song Z was actually the one in charge of all those gigs. Combine that with the bizarre stuff Sister Lin was dealing with right now. Multiple music producers ghosting them at the exact same time? A coincidence like that? She wouldn't believe for a second that no one was orchestrating this. After thinking for a moment, her brows furrowed again. Song Z is just a music director. Even if he has a bit of a name in the industry, there's no way he has the kind of pull to boss around all those other music producers. Lin Xingzu froze for a second. Wait, are you saying another entertainment company is involved? Most likely, they're the only ones who would have enough power to simultaneously reach out to that many producers. And they're the only ones who would be willing to pay the price to convince them to drop us. After all, the entire music industry isn't just controlled by one or two entertainment companies. Gu Yunxi took a deep breath. Hearing this, Lin Xingzu finally started piecing everything together. She gritted her teeth and cursed in anger. That bastard Song Z, what a backstabbing piece of trash. Has he completely forgotten who helped him up the ladder step by step? Without us, he'd be absolutely nothing right now. Gu Yunxi stayed completely silent. Song Z's betrayal was definitely weighing heavily on her. He was her senior from college, a composition major. Back when she had just debuted and desperately needed songs, their professor had recommended Song Z to work with her. And because they shared that history, all these years, she had always treated him like a brother since they came from the same school. Always wanting to support each other as they worked together. She never expected that now. Forget it, Yunxi. Don't overthink it right now. Lin Xingzu fumed for another moment, then looked at Gu Yunxi with a sympathetic expression. I'm going to hustle and see if I can get a hold of some other producers. No matter which company is behind this. It's not like they run the whole entertainment industry. With how popular you are right now, there's bound to be someone willing to write a song for you. Worst case scenario, we just lower our standards a bit, and just focus on getting through this crisis first. But Gu Yunxi shook her head. Sister Lin, if we actually do that, we'd be walking right into their trap. Honestly, my song really isn't the main issue here. Huh? Lin Xingzu froze for a second. She looked at her in total confusion. Wait, isn't your song the most important thing right now? Gu Yunxi didn't answer right away. A thoughtful gleam flickered in her beautiful eyes. After a long pause, she spoke slowly. They're coming after Yunxi Entertainment. So, targeting my new release is only their first step. But that's not their actual goal. Because even if my song gets delayed, I'd only lose a bit of hype. The overall impact on me wouldn't really be that massive. Then, what exactly is their goal? Lin Xingzu stared, completely baffled. Gu Yunxi fell silent for a moment before gritting her teeth. They're creating a narrative. Yunxi Entertainment hasn't even been around for a year. Compared to those industry giants, our foundation is still way too fragile. I'm guessing they want to expose the massive gap between us and those top-tier agencies. As long as they make everyone realize that Yunxi Entertainment isn't a strong enough competitor in the industry, that's all they need. But, by doing all this, what exactly do they get out of it? Lin Xingzu's eyes widened in shock. She was just a manager, after all. Being suddenly thrust into this brutal corporate warfare, she was having a hard time keeping up. Gu Yunxi gave a faint smile. Sister Lin, if everyone sees all the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of Yunxi Entertainment, then, when the real war begins, do you honestly think anyone will choose to stand on our side? Hearing this, Lin Xingzu sharply inhaled a breath of cold air. Now that Gu Yunxi had spelled it out so clearly. Then, what are we supposed to do now? As for that question, Gu Yunxi actually already had a plan in mind. She spoke calmly. First, we have to immediately find Yunxi Entertainment a brand new music director. We need to stabilize things internally first. Second, my new release absolutely cannot be delayed any further. And the quality has to be top tier, or else they'll definitely use it as ammo against us. Lin Xingzu looked completely torn. But, in such a short amount of time, where on earth are we going to find a decent music director? Especially without delaying your new song. That's just way too hard. Suddenly, a lazy-looking figure popped into Gu Yunxi's head. That guy, he managed to write a whole song in just 5 minutes. Could he be the one to solve my problem? Should I try asking him to be our new music director? But, would he even agree to it? Sister Lin, regarding the music director position, I think I might have someone in mind. Gu Yunxi hesitated for a second before speaking. However, she didn't mention your name directly. She hadn't asked how you felt about it yet, so she couldn't make any promises. I'll try having a chat with him. If he says yes, it might just solve the crisis we're facing right now. You have someone in mind? Who is it? Lin Xingzu asked, suddenly curious. She practically knew every famous music producer in the industry. But right at this moment, she honestly couldn't think of a single suitable candidate. Gu Yunxi looked a little hesitant. His situation is kind of unique. I'm not entirely sure yet. Let me talk to him first, and then I'll let you know. Looking at her expression, Lin Xingzu suddenly realized something. She hesitated for a second before asking, Yunxi, is this person a nobody? Gu Yunxi thought about it for a moment. Then, she nodded. Lin Xingzu took a deep breath. Just as she thought, Gu Yunxi was really planning to take a massive gamble here. Yunxi, I know we're in a really tough spot right now. But, if we really think this through, we can still get in touch with some experienced professionals. You can't just mess around with something this important. She pleaded earnestly. Gu Yunxi just smiled. Sister Lin, how could I ever joke around about Yunxi Entertainment? The guy the first found. Sure, he's a nobody right now, but he is an absolute musical genius. He might not be famous yet, but I truly believe in him. Hearing this, Lin Xingzu secretly rolled her eyes, feeling totally unconvinced. She had seen way too many so-called geniuses. If there was one thing the entertainment industry had plenty of, it was geniuses. Frowning, she pressed on. So, this guy you have in mind. Has he actually written anything? Gu Yunxi thought for a second, a smile forming on her face. He has. I actually watched him write one just today. She grabbed a pen and paper, took a moment to recall the melody, and started jotting it down. When she was finished, she handed the paper over to Lin Xingzu. Lin Xingzu took the paper and glanced at it, her brow furrowing slightly. What I miss? Blame It on the Moon. She had never heard of these songs before. Still, she patiently kept reading. As she read on, her eyes just grew wider and wider. Having been a manager for this long, she actually knew a fair bit about music theory. So she could easily tell that both of these tracks were absolute masterpieces. Yunxi, which master wrote these? I really think, if you can release the song, What I Miss in a week, we'll definitely be in the clear. Seeing her shocked expression, Gu Yunxi gave a soft smile, gently nudging her shoulder. Don't worry about exactly who's going to sing it, okay? Lin Xingzu let out a disappointed sigh, but after looking over the two tracks, she finally had a pretty good idea of just how talented this mystery producer was. Anyone who could write music like this was definitely a top-tier composer. While she was still taking it in, Gu Yunxi began giving instructions. Sister Lin, hold off on reaching out to any other producers for the next couple of days. But since you're so well connected, try to poke around and see who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Find out exactly which agency is setting us up. Once we figure out who the mastermind is, I absolutely won't let them get away with this. Gu Yunxi gritted her teeth, her voice filled with quiet fury. I'll pull some strings and start digging the moment I get back. Lin Xingzu nodded, her expression dead serious. After saying goodbye to Lin Xingzu, Gu Yunxi locked the door behind her, bringing that piece of paper covered in lyrics and melodies back to the living room. She frowned in slight frustration. Shi Hao had always been completely obsessed with his writing. Even though he knew he had a talent for songwriting, he deliberately kept it a secret, just so he could stay at home and write in peace. So, how on earth could she get him to give up his writing and become the music director at Yunxi Entertainment? Gu Yunxi pouted, lost in thought for a long moment. Then, as if she had suddenly remembered something, her beautiful eyes instantly lit up. She made her way to their bedroom on the second floor, and rummaged through the closet until she found a delicate little box. Inside was that revealing little outfit you had bought online a while ago. You had always wanted her to try it on, but because she felt too embarrassed, she had constantly refused. Seeing her wear it had always been a secret little fantasy of yours. Maybe, tonight's the night? The more Gu Yunxi thought about it, the deeper she blushed. Clutching the little box, she hurried out of the room. You had no idea how long you'd been asleep, until a slight chill in the air made you sneeze and wake up. Suddenly, Gu Yunxi's sweet, lively voice drifted up from downstairs. Honey, dinner's ready. You rubbed your stomach. You really were feeling a bit hungry. Slipping into your slippers, you headed downstairs. However, as soon as you reached the dining room, you froze. Usually, the room was fully lit. But tonight, the lighting was incredibly dim and romantic. Feeling a bit confused, you took a few more steps forward, and the long dining table came into view. On the table, a few slender candles were gently burning, casting a soft, warm yellow glow. Right in the center of the table sat an array of beautifully prepared dishes, and right next to the elegant tableware were two gorgeous crystal goblets, each already half filled with red wine. What in the world is going on? You stood there, stunned. Although Gu Yunxi occasionally cooked at home, her busy work schedule meant that she usually just whipped up something quick and simple. A lavish feast like this was incredibly rare. Suddenly, you saw her stepping out of the kitchen, carrying another dish. Her silky hair was tied back loosely, making her look like the perfect, sweet, and loving little wife. Catching your dazed expression, Gu Yunxi smiled with a hint of shyness. What are you staring at? Come sit down, I'm giving you a special reward tonight. Hearing that instantly perked you up. A reward? Could it be that the song you sang earlier moved her so much, that she cooked this entire feast just to spoil you? You rubbed your nose, a wide grin spreading across your face. Without holding back, you took the seat at the head of the table, reaching out to pull Gu Yunxi's slender waist against you. Wifey, stop fussing over the food. Let your hubby give you a hug. Wait, I haven't changed my clothes yet. Gu Yunxi stammered, her face flushed as she playfully squirmed away. Figuring she didn't want you smelling the cooking grease on her clothes, you played along and let her go. Alright, go on then. I'll be waiting right here for you. We're definitely having a few drinks tonight. Blushing furiously, Gu Yunxi practically sprinted away. You sat at the table alone, waiting. But after several minutes passed, there was still no sign of her. You were just about to get up and see what was taking so long, when she finally appeared, fully changed. As she gracefully walked down the stairs, you looked up, and completely froze. Your sweet girl was wearing a stunning black dress, that perfectly hugged every single one of her curves. Of course you recognize this outfit. You're the one who picked it out. Damn, the reward tonight is off the charts. You rubbed your nose, lost in thought. Hubby, let me pour you some wine. Gu Yunxi gracefully walked over to your side. Her cheeks flushed red as she sat down, looking absolutely stunning. She handed the glass of red wine to you. Drink up. You glanced down at the glass, swallowing hard as your throat went dry. At a time like this, who needs wine? The flames of desire that you'd barely been keeping in check suddenly flared up again. This little tease. I definitely need to teach her a lesson tonight. You took the glass from her and downed it in one gulp. Then, ignoring her startled gasp, you scooped her right up into your arms. And headed straight for the second floor. What are you doing? We haven't even eaten yet. Gu Yunxi cried out. 3 minutes later, you carried Gu Yunxi back down the stairs. Her face was bright red, and her hair was a bit of a mess. You gently set her down on her chair. This is all your fault. The food is getting cold now. Gu Yunxi pouted, looking at the table full of completely untouched dishes. It's fine, I'll just warm it up. Let me go do that. You just sit here and catch your breath, you said with a cheeky grin. Then, you carried the plates into the kitchen. About 10 minutes later, you came back out with the warmed up food. Here, have some soup first. You considerately ladled a bowl of soup for her. After all that intense action earlier, the poor girl was genuinely exhausted. She shot you a playful glare, but didn't refuse, taking the bowl and sipping the warm soup slowly. You both ate for a while until more than half the food was gone. Feeling pretty satisfied, Gu Yunxi started sneaking little glances at you. The timing was perfect. She was finally ready to get to the point. Hubby, could you do me a favor? She asked in a sweet, coaxing voice. The flickering candlelight made her face look even more breathtaking. You were in a fantastic mood, but you immediately shook your head. Nope. Gu Yunxi froze. Why? How can you just say no? That makes no sense. I set the mood and everything. You chuckled. Wifey, haven't you ever heard the saying? Once a man learns how to say no, he instantly cuts out 90% of the trouble in his life. You, of course, had your own little theory, and explained it with a smug grin. Especially when dealing with beautiful women. If you can say no, do it. And if you can't, you figure out a way anyway. Gu Yunxi looked ready to kill you. But she knew better than to lose her temper right now. Still clinging to hope, she looked up at you, batting her gorgeous eyelashes in the flickering candlelight. But hubby, that song you played today, The Moon's to Blame. Even if you already had the inspiration for it, you still wrote the whole thing in just 5 minutes. With that kind of talent, I really think you could. You paused. Having lived 2 lifetimes, you instantly sensed that something was off. Her attitude was way too suspicious. She's never spoken to you like this before. Man, lust really is a double-edged sword. Thinking this, you clear your throat. You drop the act and decide to lay all your cards on the table. Who said I wrote that song in 5 minutes, huh? Gu Yunxi looks confused. Wait, didn't you? I literally watched you write it on the spot. Actually, I wrote that song ages ago, you say with a heavy sigh. Then you stand up, lift the heavy table, and pull out a tiny, folded piece of paper wedged under the table leg. Take a look at this. Gu Yunxi takes it, her mouth falling open in absolute shock. Because when she unfolds the dust-covered paper, the lyrics scribbled on it are exactly the same as, "Blame it on the moon." But she distinctly remembers you using that exact piece of paper to balance the table over a year ago. When the hell did he write this? Her brain suddenly feels like it's short-circuiting. Then, how long did it actually take you to write this song? I don't remember. A pretty long time, though, you murmur, staring up at the chandelier in deep thought. 10 minutes? Or maybe 20? Anyway, it definitely wasn't quick. Gu Yunxi decides to try a different question. And how many songs have you written in total over the years? 2, obviously. You think writing a song is that easy? Just finishing those 2 took up a massive chunk of my time. You let out a soft sigh. You've been married for 3 years now. You definitely wouldn't screw up a trick question like this. Exposing your true abilities for no reason is basically professional suicide. Gu Yunxi just stares blankly at you, stunned by how fast you flipped the script. Her mind is a total mess right now. What? He spent 3 whole years, and only wrote 2 songs? So, he really doesn't have the chops to be a music director. I mean, what kind of music director only puts out 2 songs in 3 years? It's finally starting to click for you, too. Whatever favor Gu Yunxi wanted to ask of you, probably had something to do with writing songs. Honey, you know me. My ultimate dream is to become a legendary writer. Write a masterpiece that goes down in history. That's what I've always wanted. If I can't make that happen, I wouldn't even be able to sleep at night. Do you understand? You ask, keeping a completely straight and serious face. Gu Yunxi just stares blankly as you ramble on with total conviction. For some reason, she starts feeling increasingly pissed off. She honestly wants to pounce on you and bite your head off right then and there. No, I don't. She snaps back, shooting you a furious glare and a heavy, cold scoff. She aggressively stomps her foot, shooting up from her seat, and angrily storms upstairs. Truth is, she wanted you to join Yunxi Entertainment as their music director. Not because she couldn't handle the company's issues on her own, but because she didn't want to see her talent go to waste. But now, things had gone completely off the rails from what she'd expected. You blink in surprise as you watch her storm off. Geez, how does this girl flip her lid so fast? Didn't I already promise I'd write songs for her at home? 10 o'clock that night, Lin Xingzu finally gets home. While she's digging through her bag for her keys, she accidentally pulls out the paper airplane with the lyrics for Walking in the Rain scribbled on it. She lightly smacks her own forehead. Oh, shoot. How could I forget to give this to Yunxi? Ah, whatever. I'm heading over to her place tomorrow morning anyway. I'll just give it to her then. Muttering to herself, she shakes her head and tosses the paper airplane right back into her bag. Then, she took out her keys and unlocked the front door. Early the next morning, Gu Yunxi was up bright and early. She had been absolutely fuming last night. Though, thinking about it now, she couldn't entirely blame Shi Hao. After all, he was just a writer. Writing 2 songs in 3 years was already incredibly impressive. But for some reason, she was still just so mad, to the point where she barely even spoke to him the whole night. She took a huge gulp of water in frustration, then stared out the window, totally defeated. Just as she was trying to figure out what to do next, the doorbell suddenly rang. Gu Yunxi set her glass down and opened the door. Lin Xingzu stood there, looking as frantic and rushed as always. She had a tote bag slung over her shoulder and a phone pressed to her ear, giving instructions to who knows who on the other end. After a good while, she finally hung up. Yunxi, I've got everything sorted out at the studio. How did your talk with that music producer go yesterday? She asked, kicking off her shoes. Gu Yunxi's face suddenly flushed, and she muttered awkwardly. It didn't work out. Lin Xingzu froze. What happened? She had assumed yesterday that Gu Yunxi was pretty confident about it, which was why she went to talk to the producer in the first place. How could it have fallen through? That guy, I thought about it later, and he just doesn't seem like the right fit for the music director position. Gu Yunxi let out a heavy sigh. Looking completely bummed out, Lin Xingzu finished changing her shoes and walked into the room. Yunxi, can you just tell me, who exactly is this music producer you've been talking about? Anyone who can write 2 tracks of such incredible quality shouldn't be a nobody in the entertainment industry, right? Gu Yunxi hesitated for a long time. Since it involved him, she really didn't want to say anything. But those 2 songs were going to be released sooner or later. She wouldn't be able to hide it forever anyway. So, after a brief silence, she finally spoke up. It's Shi Hao. Lin Xingzu stopped dead in her tracks, her jaw dropping. Shi Hao? Isn't he a writer? He wrote those 2 songs? But in her head, she couldn't help but scoff. What writer? Guy hasn't written a single damn thing in 3 years. He's nothing but a deadbeat living off his wife. But she obviously couldn't say that out loud. Her expression, however, gave it all away. Sister Lin, those 2 songs really were written by Shi Hao. Gu Yunxi pouted, sounding totally helpless. This was exactly why she hadn't wanted to bring him up. It seemed like everyone around her had a massive problem with him. Wait a minute, Lin Xingzu suddenly realized something. Yunxi, you weren't actually planning to have Shi Hao be music director for Yunxi Entertainment, were you? Before Gu Yunxi could even get a word in, Lin Xingzu's face hardened, and she snapped, absolutely not. Yunxi, no way in hell. I absolutely forbid it. How on earth could Shi Hao be our music director? You know exactly what he's like. If we give him that position, it's going to be a complete disaster. She stared at Gu Yunxi in sheer panic. Yunxi, please, you cannot mix your personal feelings with work. Sister Lin, calm down for a second. I already talked to Shi Hao about it last night, and he said no. Gu Yunxi let out a bitter laugh. He turned me down. Lin Xingzu froze for a moment, looking a bit surprised. Then she immediately curled her lip. Thank God he said no. Otherwise, Yunxi Entertainment would have been completely ruined by that freeloader. Gu Yunxi nodded, sinking onto the sofa looking rather defeated. Seeing her like this, Lin Xingzu actually breathed a sigh of relief. Girl, it's a good thing he turned it down. Just listen to me on this one. Shi Hao really isn't fit to be the music director. That position is way too important. I mean, Shi Hao. Just look at how he's been acting at home for the past 3 years. You know it as well as I do. If he actually had any real talent, how could he not write a single thing in 3 whole years? There's definitely some kind of misunderstanding about those 2 songs. Anyway, your marriage to Shi Hao is your own private business. And I can't stop you from doing that. But letting him be the music director? Absolutely not. Gu Yunxi looked at Lin Qingzu's anxious face, and for a moment, she didn't even know how to explain herself. She could only nod helplessly. I know, Sister Lin, she had actually thought it through herself. If he had only written 2 songs in 3 whole years, then he really wasn't fit to be the music director of Yunxi Entertainment. Alright, Yunxi, don't stress yourself out too much over this. Things have a way of working themselves out. We'll figure something else out for the music director position. I'd actually thought of a few industry veterans yesterday. I'll give them a call in a little bit. Lin Qingzu breathed a sigh of relief and continued to comfort her. Gu Yunxi nodded. She felt helpless, but this was the only way. Oh, by the way, Yunxi, I found this paper airplane outside your door yesterday. I saw it had writing on it, so I didn't throw it away. Take a look, is this yours? Lin Qingzu suddenly remembered, pulling a folded paper airplane out of her bag. What paper airplane? Gu Yunxi took it, looking a bit confused. She unfolded it in her hands. At first, she thought it was just trash tossed by some neighborhood kid. But the moment she saw the familiar handwriting on the paper, her beautiful eyes froze. The page was filled with lines of short, poetic phrases. She recognized his handwriting almost instantly, and in that single glance, she realized exactly what it was. These were lyrics. The more she read, the more shocked she became. As a professional pop idol, sometimes, just by reading the lyrics, she could tell whether a song was good or bad. She had only skimmed through the words on this page, but she could already feel the raw power hidden within them. These lyrics were incredible. This was absolutely going to be a hit song. The only shame was that there was no melody written down. So, this was the 3rd song Shi Hao had written. Yunxi, do you recognize this paper airplane? Gu Yunxi gritted her teeth in frustration, clutching the paper tightly. A dangerous glint flashed in her eyes. Oh, I recognize it all right. Of course I do. I literally saw a similar one just yesterday. Lin Qingzu stared at her gritting her teeth and was taken aback. Why did Gu Yunxi look so pissed off? Is there something special about that paper airplane? Who wrote this? Who else but Shi Hao? Gu Yunxi seethed. She looked down again at the crumpled, crease-filled piece of paper. The paper was crisp and white, and the ink on it was clear and vibrant. It was obviously just written a few days ago, but more importantly, she remembered telling him not to leave his trash around. The truth came to light in a split second. Whatever was on this paper was definitely written by Shi Hao just 2 days ago. Gu Yunxi gritted her teeth in anger. Shi Hao had lied to her again. Honey, I've only written 2 songs in 3 years. The guy's solemn vows from just last night seemed to echo in her ears again. Yunxi, did Shi Hao really write this poem? Lin Qingzu asked curiously. Gu Yunxi nodded. She was absolutely certain of it. Lin Qingzu was genuinely surprised. That guy Shi Hao could actually write a poem like this? But a moment later, she brushed it off dismissively. What's the point of writing good poetry? You can't turn words into money. He still has to rely on Yunxi to pay the bills. As she was thinking this, she heard Gu Yunxi fuming beside her. These are lyrics written by Shi Hao. If I'm not mistaken, this is probably the 3rd song he's written. Lyrics? Yunxi, does Shi Hao actually know how to write songs? Lin Qingzu froze for a second. Then she looked at Gu Yunxi in disbelief. She had assumed all along that whatever was on this paper was just a poem he copied from somewhere. Gu Yunxi nodded. She was just about to say something else when you came strolling down the stairs. You let out a huge yawn and dragged your feet lazily into the living room. Morning, honey. I'm starving. Where's breakfast? As you rubbed the sleep from your eyes, you noticed both Lin Qingzu and Gu Yunxi sitting on the couch in the living room. The way they were looking at you was complicated, and honestly, a bit weird. Oh, hey Lin, you're here too. You threw up a hand in a lazy greeting. Hearing this, Lin Qingzu took a deep breath. She turned her head away in annoyance, completely ignoring you. Gu Yunxi's expression, on the other hand, was completely unreadable. You assumed she was still mad about yesterday. So, you walked over with a cheeky grin. Hey, wifey, are you still mad at me? Gu Yunxi stared at your shameless, grinning face, and felt even more infuriated. She asked coldly, did you sleep well last night? Yeah, I did. Slept like a baby, completely oblivious to the danger. You deliberately squeezed in right next to Gu Yunxi and sat down. Watching this, Lin Qingzu scoffed inwardly. This Shi Hao guy, he is unbelievably shameless. Oh, really? Gu Yunxi didn't react to your closeness. She kept her poker face and continued, I didn't sleep well at all last night, actually. I got up super early this morning. And then, I found a paper airplane lying around our house. She gave the piece of paper in her hand a little shake and went on. But the weird thing is, there was all this bizarre stuff written on it, and the handwriting looked awfully familiar. Honey, do you happen to know anything about this? You froze. Your eyes locked onto the suspiciously familiar piece of white paper in her hand. Seeing the faintly visible handwriting on it, your heart completely dropped. Oh, crap, no freaking way. That random crap I wrote the other day. Didn't I fold it into a paper airplane and throw it away? You look like you just swallowed a fly, honey. Just let me explain. I'm listening. Gu Yunxi offered a smile, looking like she wasn't angry in the slightest. But you knew better. That smile meant she was genuinely furious. If you kept trying to bullshit your way out of this, she would definitely blow up. After hesitating for exactly 3 seconds, you wisely gave up any thought of struggling. You honestly admitted your mistake. I'm so sorry, honey. I lied yesterday. Over the past 3 years, I've actually written 3 songs. Gu Yunxi wanted nothing more than to grab your wrist and bite it as hard as she could. But since Lin Qingzu was still right there, all she could do was glare at you in frustration. Shi Hao, how much longer are you going to keep lying to me? Honey, it's just a huge misunderstanding. You gave an awkward laugh and said with absolute sincerity, I promise, this is the absolute last one. Gu Yunxi was grinding her teeth in anger. It took her several deep breaths before she finally managed to calm down a little. But just as she was about to press the issue, she helplessly realized something. She really couldn't do anything about Shi Hao right now. Writing 2 songs in 3 years, or 3 songs in 3 years, didn't actually make much of a difference. It still wasn't enough to make him a music director. Ahem, if there's nothing else, I'll get back to work. I don't know why, but my writing inspiration is just so incredibly strong today. You were smart enough to know when to fold. And seeing Gu Yunxi stay quiet, you immediately planned to make a run for it. But Gu Yunxi wasn't going to let you off the hook that easily. She gritted her teeth and said, wait right there, is there something else? You turned around with an innocent smile. Gu Yunxi took another deep breath, waved the sheet of paper in her hand, and huffed, you can leave after you sing this song. No problem. You let out a huge sigh of relief inside. You flashed her an okay sign. It was just 1 song, after all. No big deal. You knew that her anger had already faded for the most part. Once you finished the song and sweet-talked her a little bit, this whole thing would blow over completely. Then you could go right back to happily slacking off every single day. By the time you came back to the living room with your guitar, Gu Yunxi's expression had definitely softened up. You smiled slightly, cradling the guitar and giving the strings a gentle strum. Both women in the living room stared at you with genuine curiosity. Lin Qingzu's eyes were still full of doubt, but your own demeanor slowly turned serious. No matter how much you loved to slack off, you were always completely serious when it came to singing. It was like a deeply ingrained habit from your days as a top superstar, one that was impossible to break. Feeling the sudden shift in your aura, Lin Qingzu couldn't help but freeze for a second. Gu Yunxi slowly held her breath too, her eyes completely locked onto you. That same unexplainable spark she felt from you last night seemed to be slowly surfacing once again. You gently closed your eyes and adjusted your posture. Your fingers skillfully found their place on the fretboard, lightly plucking the strings. A beautifully melancholic melody filled the room. Gu Yunxi held her breath, listening intently to every note. She couldn't help but nod in silent approval. This intro carried a strange, unexplainable sense of sorrow, but the melody was incredibly catchy. And then, you slowly opened your mouth, your voice just a little rough. A mournful, husky melody filled the room. But Gu Yunxi and Lin Qingzu both froze at exactly the same time, because the song you were singing was completely different from the lyrics written on that paper plane. Gu Yunxi picked up the paper again, and stared at it closely, just to make absolutely sure she wasn't seeing things. You sang line after line, while Gu Yunxi and Lin Qingzu's eyes just grew wider and wider. They were totally dumbfounded, because they realized, even though they'd never heard these lyrics before, the song was actually amazingly good. And your vocals were unexpectedly brilliant. Lin Qingzu's mouth fell slightly open, looking at you in pure disbelief. She was a talent manager. so she had a sharp eye for stars. She had spotted Gu Yunxi at first glance back then. Absolutely certain this beautiful, innocent girl was going to make it big. That's why she agreed to be her manager in the first place. But right now, looking at you, she was picking up an entirely different kind of aura. Calm, elegant, completely in control. What the hell was going on? She didn't even know how to describe this vibe. But she remembered feeling this way only a handful of times in the industry. When she was standing right in front of top-tier superstars. It was instinct. You didn't even notice the looks on the two women's faces. You were just lost in your own memories. Thinking about a romance from your past life. You slowly closed your eyes. The song carried on, but the raw emotion finally started pouring out. It was pent up, like a storm just waiting for the perfect moment to break. As the song came to an end, Gu Yunxi and Lin Qingzu's eyes welled up with tears. They just stared at you, totally spellbound. Unless they were crazy, it seemed this guy Shi Hao had just dropped another absolute masterpiece of a love song. The living room fell dead silent. You stood there, waiting for a beat, letting the heavy emotions settle down before letting out a soft breath. You set down the guitar and looked over at the two women frozen on the couch. A faint, cocky smirk crept onto your face. You were feeling pretty damn good about yourself. You were extremely satisfied with their totally dumbstruck reactions. You casually turned around and grabbed a chair to sit down. Now came the time for the applause and the praise. You were more than ready to soak in all your well-deserved glory. Strangely enough, though, you waited and waited, but the showering of compliments never came. What was going on? Feeling a little confused, you looked up, only to see Gu Yunxi wiping a tear from her eye. Staring back at you with utter confusion. Hubby, what exactly were you just singing? If only, duh. It was literally written on the paper, wasn't it? Why are you even asking? You replied casually. Gu Yunxi grabbed the piece of paper again, took another look. And then deadpanned as she slapped it down right in front of you. What do you mean? Is there a problem? You asked, leaning in closer to get a good look at the paper. Staring back at you was your own familiar handwriting. But right across the top, boldly scribbled out, was the title, Keep Walking in the Rain. Staring at that glaring title, your face completely froze. Holy crap, what the hell is going on here? You could have sworn that just the other day, you wrote down an entirely different song. A song filled with a hint of sorrow, wasn't it supposed to be If Only? How did it suddenly turn into Walking in the Rain together? At this very moment, you felt like your brain had just been smashed by a meteor. That's right, you completely mixed them up. You had actually written both songs before. It's okay. Gu Yunxi suddenly flashed an absolutely gorgeous smile, crouching down and gently patting your shoulder. Honey, this time, I'll give you a moment. Take your time, think it through, and once you have a good excuse, you can explain it to me. She walked upstairs with a totally calm expression on her face, while you stared up at the ceiling, completely stripped of your ability to think. Your face went entirely blank. At this very moment, you felt like 100,000 wild horses were trampling all over your heart. You were regretting every life choice you'd ever made. Meanwhile, Lin Xingzu took a deep breath, staring at you with absolute shock in her eyes. Your performance today had truly blown her mind. This song, If Only, combined with vocals that could easily rival any top-tier singer, she was almost absolutely certain. If you debuted right now with this song, you would blow up instantly. But wasn't this guy just a freeloader living off his wife? When did he get so incredibly talented? What the hell was going on here? Had he seriously been hiding his true abilities all this time? If sorrow had a name, you figured, it would be called If Only. But sadly, there's no cure for regret in this world. After sulking and playing dead for 5 whole minutes, you had no choice but to hopelessly confess the truth to your wife. Yes, you knew how to write songs. And in the past 3 years, you had written way more than just 3. Ultimately, you managed to win your little lady's forgiveness. But at the same time, under her masterful mix of threats and sweet talk, you somehow ended up with the position of music director at Yunxi Entertainment. From what she told you, you found out that Yunxi's former music director had just resigned, and that quote-unquote reward she gave you last night was exactly her way of tricking you into taking the job. You looked up at the ceiling in silence and let out a long, heavy sigh. Your easy life as a kept man was going so perfectly well. How did it suddenly turn into this? Thank you so much, hubby. Standing in the sunlight, Gu Yunxi covered her mouth and giggled playfully, her beautiful eyes curving into sweet little crescents. You sighed internally once again. Yep, it's true. The prettier the woman, the more she ruins a guy's defenses. If she wasn't so damn good at acting cute, there was no way you would have agreed to this so easily. He just loves writing novels too much. That's why he purposely hid his songwriting talents. He was scared we'd make him write songs and take up all his writing time. We really need to let him get some real experience as a music director. It'll definitely fix that lazy streak of his. Nearby, Gu Yunxi was pouting slightly, explaining all of this to Lin Xingzu with a smug, proud little look on her face. Is that really it? Lin Xingzu shot a look of total disbelief at you, sprawled out on the recliner like a puddle of mud. The sheer shock on her face still hadn't faded away. Because just moments ago, after practically begging on Gu Yunxi's part, you had written out the entire melody for Walking in the Rain together right in front of them. Gu Yunxi had simply followed the notes on the paper, playing and singing a quick, casual acoustic version. And her beautiful eyes couldn't stop sparkling. Lin Xingzu had heard it too. It really was breathtaking, absolutely stunning. It was way better than any song Gu Yunxi had released since her debut. And a masterpiece like this. Shi Hao was actually folding into paper airplanes and tossing around the house? What an absolute waste of pure gold. Gu Yunxi gave you a sidelong glance and let out a soft HMPH. Then her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly again, happily going back to admiring the lyrics and melody in her hands. She was in a fantastic mood. Stepping gracefully, she came over to your side, leaned down, and planted a soft kiss on your cheek. A little reward for you, hubby. But you were in no mood to appreciate it, turning your head away with a pained expression. Leave me alone, I'm mourning my dying dreams. Gu Yunxi covered her mouth, unable to hold back a giggle at your dramatic words. Ever since you agreed to take on the music director role, you'd been moping around like a total zombie. It was as if all the energy had been completely sucked out of you. What dreams? You've been at it for 3 years and haven't produced a single thing. Gu Yunxi gave you a playful pinch on the waist. If you ask me, you should just give up on this writer dream of yours while you're ahead. That line of work just isn't for you. You're much better off focusing on writing songs. You could definitely build a real career out of it. Your expression only grew more pained. Were you even talking about being a writer? No, you were mourning the tragic loss of your lazy, carefree life. Seeing that you still weren't going to engage, Gu Yunxi stood up, put her hands on her hips in a huff, and said, Fine, then you can just sit here and mourn all you want. You already promised me anyway. You start your new job at Yunxi Entertainment in 3 days. Unless you can somehow write a decent book in the next 3 days, you'd better march yourself to work like a good boy. With another HMPH, she turned and headed downstairs. Even though she finally had the new song, the release date was fast approaching, and she still had a million things to do. Lin Xingzu let out a sigh and followed her downstairs. You turned back around, staring blankly up at the sky. 3 days. Just 3 days left. Was your beautifully lazy life really going to end? In just 3 days? This was absolutely not what you wanted. But what could you even do about it now? Suddenly, Gu Yunxi's words echoed in your mind. Wait a minute, who said you couldn't be a great writer? It suddenly hit you. All you had to do was actually write something. Then, even if you quit the job and stayed home to focus on writing, the little miss wouldn't be able to say a single word about it. Figuring this out, you suddenly bolted upright and slapped the table hard. Your thoughts were getting clearer by the second. You leapt out of the recliner, slipped on your slippers, and rushed back to your room. You booted up your computer. Time waits for no man. It was time to kickstart your writing career. But, you were on a serious ticking clock. Becoming a successful writer overnight was not going to be easy. You typed writing contest into the search bar. As an author who hadn't published a single word in 3 years, you had no intention of starting slowly from scratch. You were going straight for the contests. These competitions came with a built-in audience, which could quickly skyrocket your pen name and your work. The search results quickly popped up on your screen. After scrolling for a bit, your eyes locked onto the title of one particular writing contest. You clicked on it, only to realize it was a women's literature writing contest. You froze for a second, then stroked your chin in thought. This contest was being hosted by China's biggest literary forum. It was a semi-official organization, meaning it had massive influence. Plus, there's no need to sign a contract, which perfectly fits your requirements. You didn't hesitate any longer. After dragging your mouse and registering an account on the forum, you directly filled in your details and submitted the application. Taking a deep breath, you opened a blank document on your computer and started typing the very first line. My grandfather's name was Hu Guba. It might sound weird for you to admit, but you didn't know if it was an effect of your reincarnation. When you came back to life in this world, you realized that the memories of your past life seemed to have been completely preserved. Every single scene and fragment was incredibly clear. Your fingers flew rapidly across the keyboard, and in just over 10 minutes, several thousand words appeared on the screen. During this time, Gu Yunxi came up to your room with breakfast and a fruit platter. Seeing you actually typing away so seriously, she was both amused and annoyed. You still haven't given up? Of course not. You nodded, replying stubbornly. I'm laying my cards on the table. I'm going to be a great writer. Let's see what you have to say when that actually happens. Well, keep trying then. Gu Yunxi stomped her foot in frustration. But on second thought, she figured this was probably your final struggle. Over the past 3 years, you had said things like this countless times, but you had never actually written anything to show for it. Thinking about this, she didn't take your words to heart. She set the fruit platter down, said her goodbyes, and headed out the door, leaving you all alone in the room, still clacking away in your intense writing battle. At 4:32 in the afternoon, ding, backend system of Little Sun, an editor for the Huaxia Literature Forum, suddenly popped up with a new message. An application for the writing competition. He paused for a moment, and glanced at the time in the bottom right corner. There were only 5 minutes left until the registration deadline. The writing competition hosted by the forum was set to run for a total of 2 months. Registration was open for the entire first month, but anyone who seriously wanted to compete usually signed up within the first 2 weeks. After all, registering too late meant there wouldn't be much time left to write. The exposure window for the work would also be way too short, leaving barely enough time to build up any real readership. So what was the point of even joining the competition? With that in mind, he kindly sent a reminder. Hello, I'm Sun Ruinen, an editor for the Huaxia Literature Forum. The registration period is about to end. Signing up now makes it extremely difficult for a story to perform well. I highly suggest you wait for the next round of the writing competition. We hold similar writing competitions every few months. After sending the message, he yawned and was about to close the chat window. But before he could even finish his yawn, a new message popped up on his screen. No thanks, I'll just join this round. Sun Ruinen froze for a second. Looking at this nonchalant message, he couldn't help but chuckle. Working as an editor for years, he had seen plenty of stubborn newbies like this. The applicant's pen name was also completely unfamiliar. He guessed it was just someone who had recently started writing, full of absolute confidence in their own work, completely unaware of how brutal the writing industry actually was. Finally, he let out a sigh, and decided to approve the new author's application. Once your application was approved, you were instantly cleared to upload your work, and you published it right away, as fast as humanly possible. Huaxia Literature Forum, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Sun Ruinen compiled the data for all the registered books, ready to submit his report to the higher-ups. But when his gaze landed on a pen name called, at the end of his wits, he couldn't help but freeze for a second. He remembered that pen name belonged to the newbie from just now, right? The book he uploaded was titled, The Lamps We Blew Out Together Back in the Day. Sun Ruinen clicked open the book's info to take a look. The title wasn't bad. It's probably an old-school romance from the last century. Still, a title is only a tiny part of it. Whether a book actually makes it big, mostly comes down to the content itself. And that's exactly where newbies fall short. Their writing style and plots are usually pretty amateurish. He shook his head with a soft sigh, and took a closer look at the book's details. Seeing that The Lamps We Blew Out Together Back in the Day had just been updated, he couldn't help but chuckle. He scrolled down and clicked on the book's details, wanting to see just how many words this guy had managed to write. But, the moment the page loaded, his expression suddenly looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Because right there in the book info, it clearly stated, today's updated word count, 60,000. This at the end of his wits guy had uploaded 60,000 words on his very first day. He rubbed his eyes a few times just to make sure he wasn't seeing things. His jaw dropped, face full of utter disbelief. Is this guy just mashing the keyboard? He quickly clicked into the main text. Chapter 1. the blank paper of that year. My grandfather's name was Hu Guba. Early the next morning, Lin Xingzu showed up at Gu Yunxi's place, sporting massive dark circles under her eyes. She completely startled Gu Yunxi, who had just woken up. Last night, Lin Xingzu had stayed up until past 3 a.m. before finally falling asleep. If she hadn't set 4 or 5 alarms this morning, there's no way she would have woken up. Lin, what happened to you? Did you not sleep well last night? Gu Yunxi asked, looking genuinely concerned. Ever since she had known Lin Xingzu, the woman had always been the picture of a sharp, capable boss. Seeing her look this drained and exhausted was incredibly rare. Don't even ask. I ran into a total jerk last night. My bestie, and some completely shameless author. Lin Xingzu let out a heavy sigh, taking a sip of her coffee to force herself awake. Though, I have to admit, that book, The Lamps We Blew Out Together Back in the Day, is actually incredibly well written. So much so that she had gotten completely hooked, and just couldn't put it down. What author? Lin Xingzu's mouth twitched. There's no point talking about it now. I'll tell you all about it tonight. Let's focus on work for now. Lin Xingzu pinched her own thigh hard to wake herself up, then continued. Here's the situation. The official notice about our studio's new music director taking over has already been sent out. Things are stable with the trainees for the moment. From what I've seen, 2 of our debut artists still seem pretty on the fence. Gu Yunxi gave a slight nod. The studio had about 6 or 7 debut artists in total. If that rival agency was really planning to make a move against Yunxi Entertainment, they would definitely target these artists first. So, she asked, did you find out exactly which entertainment company is coming after us? I reached out to a bunch of old friends to get some inside info. After Song Zi left Yunxi Entertainment, it seems he joined Qingsheng Entertainment. Lin Xingzu looked a bit hesitant. She still wasn't entirely sure if the rumor was true or not. Qingsheng Entertainment? Gu Yunxi frowned. Qingsheng Entertainment was a pretty well-known agency in the country. Even though they weren't quite on the level of the top-tier giants, they were absolutely not a small player. What makes this entertainment company so famous is that they exclusively sign female artists. The roster at Qingsheng Entertainment is almost exclusively made up of female artists. A few years back, when she first debuted, Qingsheng Entertainment actually extended an olive branch to her. She turned them down, mostly because Qingsheng Entertainment's reputation wasn't exactly the best in the industry. The founder of Qingsheng Entertainment is Chen Yuman, a highly famous actress in the industry. She's definitely an A- list star. She debuted about 5 or 6 years earlier than her, put out a few albums, and starred in a bunch of TV dramas. Her popularity is through the roof. Qingsheng Entertainment has been around for 5 or 6 years now. Over these past few years of growth, they've reached a pretty impressive scale. She never expected that the one targeting their company would actually be Qingsheng Entertainment. I don't think I've ever even crossed paths with them. Seeing Gu Yunxi staying quiet, Lin Xingzu also looked a bit worried. Even though Qingsheng Entertainment exclusively signs women, their power in the industry is nothing to scoff at. Chen Yuman is absolutely gorgeous. And back in the day, she was one of the most massively popular top-tier stars in China. Her network and resources are incredibly vast. She just couldn't wrap her head around it. Qingsheng Entertainment was doing so well on its own. Why would they suddenly make a move against their Yunxi Entertainment? Facing such a formidable enemy, how were they supposed to fight back? Lin Xingzu glanced around the room, but couldn't spot you anywhere. How is Shi Hao doing right now? He's all prepared to take over as music director on Monday, right? At the mention of Shi Hao, Gu Yunxi seemed to slowly snap back from her deep thoughts. A strange look crossed her face. That guy, I honestly thought he'd stay depressed for at least a little while longer, but surprisingly, ever since yesterday afternoon, he seems completely back to normal. He's already back to grinding away at his writing. Saying this, she couldn't help but shake her head in defeat. This absolute obsession Shi Hao has with writing. I have no idea where he caught this bug, but he just can't kick the habit. Lin Xingzu furrowed her brow slightly. Whether Shi Hao can actually handle the role of music director is still completely up in the air. I can't believe instead of properly preparing, he's just been busy typing away at his stories. The guy clearly doesn't have a single bone of literary talent in his body. So why on earth does he keep wasting his time on it? Yunxi Entertainment is already facing crises from both the inside and the outside. I really don't know if letting him be our music director is going to turn out to be a blessing or a total disaster. 11:30 in the morning. You walked out of your room, letting out a massive yawn. That little girl had just left a message, saying she had to go into the office with Lin Xingzu to handle a few things, and told you to make sure you eat lunch on time. Your breakfast was already prepped and waiting for you on the table out on the rooftop balcony. You glanced at the time, and decided to just combine breakfast and lunch into one meal. Not only does it save food, but it also frees up a little extra time for a nice afternoon nap. Sure enough, by the time you finished washing up, it was already dead noon. Since you technically just had your breakfast, then this slice right here might as well count as lunch. Grabbing a slice of bread, you wandered into the studio. You fired up your computer without rushing. Yesterday, right after publishing your new book, you had just shut the computer straight down. Without even checking any of the actual stats. Today, your plan was to pump out another 60,000 words. You figured you'd check how things were looking first. Honestly, dropping those years onto the platform for the women's literature writing contest left you feeling a little unsure. After all, at its core, this book wasn't exactly a pure romance novel. It was just a spur-of-the-moment decision yesterday, since it was the only novel that popped into your head at the time. You let out a helpless sigh in your mind. Then, you clicked open the back-end analytics. You only needed to take one look. You couldn't help but freeze for a moment. What was going on? Over 30,000 people had read your novel just last night alone. Your eyes slowly filled with disbelief. What in the world was happening? Was this women's literature writing contest really this popular? That afternoon, an emergency meeting was being held in the headquarters conference room of the Jingdu Huaxia Literature Forum. A dozen or so senior executives sat around the conference table, all wearing rather strange expressions. So, the endless stream of complaints the backend has been getting since last night are all aimed at this one book? At the head of the table sat a middle-aged woman with glasses, named Zhang Qinan. She was the director of the forum's women's literature writing contest. The moment she arrived at the office this morning, her assistant had given her a report, saying that their women's literature contest had suddenly received a massive flood of complaints and reports. At first, she was incredibly nervous, thinking something had gone horribly wrong with one of the contest stages. But after listening closely to her subordinate's full report, her expression turned rather bizarre. Because her assistant told her that the hundreds of complaints they received last night were all targeting one single book. Sister Zhang, the tech team already looked into it. The data for this book is 100% real. There are absolutely no signs of view botting or fake votes. According to our investigation, the reason this book's numbers blew up like this is because yesterday, a massive wave of readers started sharing and forwarding it everywhere. Hearing this, everyone in the conference room was stunned. A sudden wave of hushed whispers broke out among them. The Huaxia Literature Forum was a veteran website that had always held a fairly prestigious status in the literary world. But lately, with the rapid rise of major web novel platforms, the forum's influence had been on a steady decline. New user registrations were constantly dropping, and the activity of their older users was fading day by day. If things kept going like this, the Huaxia Literature Forum would soon become nothing but an empty shell.